Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Inspiral's 100 Diverse Stories, where we talk to women who've built businesses on their own terms. Our guests today are no different. They are co-founders, Arya and Veda, who have started a very interesting company that not only delivers impact, but also helps young people around the world find opportunities and ways to channel their skills in order to help the larger community. Arya and Veda started the Imagine, Innovate, and Inspire competition in high school after learning about the impacts of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic on small business communities around them. They observed the struggles that many entrepreneurs had with adapting to the online marketplace and all the different changes that were happening with digital marketing. As they looked at their peers, they noticed that there was this huge untapped potential for students who are well versed in the uses of digital infrastructure and could actually become support mechanisms or support networks to help small business owners grow their presence through mobile apps, websites, and social media marketing. Thank you so much, Veda and Arya, for joining us today. I'm super excited to learn more about your story and hear how everything started with the iCube competition.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, absolutely. Well, I think let's start from the very beginning, right? Like how did the idea for starting this find the both of you?
That's a great question. Actually, it was kind of a solution that was born out of the mindset of kill two birds with one stone. So when we were 16, I remember November 2020, my mom and I were talking about how she's a small business owner and during the COVID pandemic was really kind of struggling to get access to a lot of resources that the government was saying was for small businesses, but really was going towards larger corporations. And because she was dealing with that confluence of issues, she wasn't really finding the time to work on her website or work on marketing her business and things like that. So she figured to ask me, a very digitally savvy tech native, I guess, of Gen Z, for some help with her website because she knew that I had helped another small business with that. On the other side of the same coin, Arya and I were in school, and all of our peers were talking about how COVID had really disrupted their ability to get internships or meaningful work experiences, projects, etc., that they could put on their college application so they could show future employers that they had X amount of skills. And I just kind of sat there and was like, oh, well, these kids have all this digital talent. These small business owners need that level of digital talent. Why not put the two together? And started talking about it with another organization called the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership. And we decided that in order to incentivize high school students to really participate, we should make it a competition format. So that's kind of how the i3 competition was born. And now it's our flagship in the i3 Foundation.
Yeah, I think Veda captured it perfectly. But just, I guess, to add on to that, I think as high school students, it gets more and more complicated and competitive to get into harder schools. And so I think people are always looking for different ways to stand out. And I feel like it often gets put into like, oh, you do this thing and this thing. And this was kind of something different that people could add to their application. So it was definitely a value add for them. And then also these small businesses really needed the help. And we always find every year, even though it's been a few years since the pandemic, we still have so many business owners that are expressing need for the competition and getting that help. And so by having students who are looking for something different and looking to apply a lot of those skills they learn in the classroom that just pretty much goes to waste. And then also having a lot of businesses that need that help, it's kind of a win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah. No, I think it's super interesting. Like whenever I interview women on this podcast, we always talk about how the business ideas have found them, and a lot of them say, "Oh, it's based on personal experiences." And I think it's true for the both of you as well, Veda, with you and you're observing things around you, and Arya as well, looking at people around you who needed help. So it almost became like this bridge of connecting two communities that you were observing and seeing needed each other for different things to achieve their own objectives, but also to like connect with each other and create bigger impact. That's super interesting. I do have a question though, like with a lot of business ideas, what what we often see is people have lots of great ideas, but it's so hard to just get to a point where, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna put time aside and this is going to happen. What was it like for the both of you to create that sense of accountability? Like, this is real and we're going to go for it.
That's a really great question. I think something that really pushed us towards getting super serious about this project was the fact that these business owners were being extremely vocal about the type of help they needed. It was hard to ignore somebody asking for help and saying, Veda Aarya, we know that you have this specific skill set and you have all this time on your hands in high school. So why not actually help somebody else out and make a real impact? So it was hard to ignore that kind of call. And again, because it's such a tangible competition, the students are creating an actual product. The business owners are getting a real deliverable. It's very easy to get serious about it because it's not as abstract and you don't get to forget about it, right? You have someone chasing you down for a deadline. So I think that was something that really helped us be accountable. And then also working together in a team. That's why I brought Arya on and we started this together, is because I needed somebody who was going to push me, and hopefully I push you too, to get stuff done. So I think that that's been really great with the accountability.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of small businesses, I mean, it's their entire life. And so when you're able to support someone's income and, their whole family relies on how well their business is doing, and now they're kind of in this situation where they've not really had much exposure to using social media or using different types of technology to kind of make their website stand out some more. And we have those skills. It just seemed like it was a waste to not use that. And also after the first season that we'd ever done the competition, we heard a lot of the stories from them and how the competition helped them and why they started their own business. And it was just so inspirational for both Veda and I. And we were kind of saying, this work is really great and something that we'd want to continue even going into college, and not just leave it as like a high school project, like really trying to help more and more businesses and really give them the impact they need.
That's amazing. Like you said, Arya, knowing your why is so important. And sometimes it grows over time, or like even for me, when I started Inspiral at the first moment, I knew there was a need for it. But the more women I speak to, the more stories you hear, it just gets stronger. So I love that both of you really focused on the why and honed in. Because when you want to give up, that's what you go back to, right? Or when you feel like, oh, is this worth it? Yes, it definitely is. You mentioned something interesting with about having a co-founder, and that just creates that sense of accountability. I definitely resonate with that. It's hard being a single founder that has to motivate herself day in and day out. I'm lucky I have a community around me that supports me, but having a co-founder, I feel it's a gift. And if you find the right person, it's perfect. How did the both of you find each other?
Yeah, so we went to the same high school. We were involved in several of the same clubs together. And actually, it's funny, the I3 competition, I3 Foundation started as a part of our South Asian Heritage Club, which the two of us were the presidents for. We kind of treated this club as like a blank slate. It gave us access to our school resources. It gave us an incredible advisor. And because the two of us knew we led things well together, we kind of complement each other in our skill sets. We figured why not actually start something big? So honestly, the two of us are best friends. We've known each other for a long time, but it was really identifying the fact that we complement each other, because it's hard to go into business or nonprofit work with your best friend. That can always lead to some complications, but I think it's that complementing factor.
Yeah, definitely. Veda is always the person who can definitely get things done, and you know that when she takes something on, that it will do a good job and it'll be really great. So I think when you're working with somebody, having that full faith that whatever work that they do will be really great and that they'll put their best foot forward, and it's not just like having to push someone like please get this in, please get this in. It's like no, you're doing it because you care. I think that always just shows in like the work and making sure that the final outcome is as good as it can be. And so I think we've seen each other work in different environments and we were competing in a lot of different things together. So we kind of knew how each other would work and how that would kind of flow as a company. And I think it worked out really well. And I'm very glad that we were able to kind of balance each other out, to get the best final outcome.
It's very much like a relationship, right? Like finding what one person is good at, complementing it with the other, and making sure that you can even work in sync. And even when you disagree, that both of you trust each other enough to know that, okay, we're both headed in the same direction still. I think that's great. Um, There is one question that I like to ask founders quite a bit because I find it quite interesting that as a founder, you're constantly learning. Like every day you figure something out and you're like, okay, I have to change the way I operate my company or my organization. With i3, how did you test and continue refining the business? If you could share a point in time, maybe when you learned something new and had to rethink the way you did things.
Yeah, so I can take a stab at this first. So there's this one moment that Veda and I often refer to as kind of like a changing moment in our timeline of working on I3, and that was the first round of the competition cycle. And we often get a lot of feedback and really try to prioritize getting as much feedback as possible, negative or positive. And so I think when you're focusing on a social impact and you're so close to something, you often think, okay, this is the best way to do it, and this is the only way that like makes the most sense, and you kind of get caught up in like the idea of what you're doing, and maybe there's some things that we miss. And so after the first cycle, we had gotten feedback from one of the judges, and he kind of said a lot of things that we weren't necessarily expecting to hear. We were so happy with how the competition cycle went, and I guess he had some more feedback that was a little bit more harsh for both of us to hear. But honestly, we kind of took it one step at a time and really listened to what he had to say. And even though it kind of hurt our pride to hear some of the things that he had to say, really just saying, okay, well, this is for the greater good of everyone. And if he has some good things to say and some things that we can learn from, it's really helpful to kind of just listen and adapt. And since then, I think we've been able to accommodate a lot of things that he had recommended to us. And I think that's always something that is really important with learning and being able to say, okay, well, yes, this was a really great idea that we had, but maybe some other way or some new approach is a new thing to try, and kind of trial and error and just seeing what the best way to go about things, even if we may not have thought of that initially on our own.
Yeah, that was actually the exact story I was going to tell. See, same wavelength.
Love it.
Um, but something I think that is in the same vein that has really helped us with this testing and refining process is Arya and I both recognize we're very young. We're young founders. So it was really important to us to build out a strong mentor network for ourselves. So one of the really important facets and unique facets of the i3 competition itself is we give mentors to the high school students, but we are also searching for mentors ourselves. And that's why we have a slate of partner organizations or organizations that we have relationships with that we can not only source business owners from them, right, and help their business owners, but kind of in return, the executives in those nonprofits are coaching Aria and I. So I mentioned the IFEL. They have been phenomenal partners since day one of this competition and really are the people that we trust to give it to us straight, right? All the way from, guys, you have a habit of scheduling events on national holidays. And we know that works for students, but it doesn't work for the business owners. It doesn't work for us. So taking those little things into account, all the way up to giving us like operational ideas or changes to implement in the way the program is run. And they can see it on the business owner side. We can see it on the student side. So having that very direct line of communication with these mentors to kind of come in the middle and figure it all out. And then we also involve mentors from outside the competition. I know that there are a ton of entrepreneurs in our community who have been really vocal about what they would need help with. And so we go and we seek advice from them, feedback from them, and implement that into the competition. So we're really just very big on looking for mentors, asking for feedback. And like Arya said, I think we do a pretty good job of taking feedback. And that is the only reason why our competition has been so successful.
Love it. I want to ask a bit more about taking feedback and processing it. Feedback can come from many directions, as both of you mentioned, right? It could be someone who's advising you on the company, or it could be just someone who's observing the great work that both of you are doing. How do you filter and decide which feedback to take and which feedback is probably not aligned with your mission?
That's a great question. I think the first step in taking feedback that I think is important, maybe not totally aligned with your question, but is to not take it personally.
Mm.
That's the first thing we realized when this judge for the competition gave us that really strong feedback is he's not criticizing us or our idea. He is trying to improve it. So the first step is don't take it personally. And then I think the next part of that is in that filtration process, you kind of come back to the why, like you said. It's what is the point of this competition? What is the mission that we are trying to accomplish or the goal we're trying to accomplish? And how does the feedback fit into that goal, right? Somebody might be giving a very, very small piece of constructive criticism that doesn't help or harm the mission. And so we'll kind of decide, is it worth our effort to make that change, right? Somebody might give us a piece of feedback that is like totally changed the scope of the competition. Or I remember at one point we had 5 things that the students could work on. It was app, website, social media, conversational AI, and one other thing. And somebody gave us the feedback, drop the last 2, because these first 3 are the most important things that small business owners need help with. And we decided, yes, that narrows in on the why and the what of the mission. So I think those are kind of our guiding questions or guiding processes when we're deciding how to filter feedback.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, I think for feedback in general, I think it's a little bit easier when you're working in a nonprofit because you have such a thing that our issue kind of isn't just specific to us. It's like so many people deal with this issue of like not having enough help and students looking for opportunities. And so I think when we're able to kind of hear people's feedback, it's always usually very positive in terms of like, we want to help you guys grow. And so I think we've really been able to kind of listen and think about we'll like work it through with them like, okay, so why did you say that, what do you think we could change, and then we kind of just walk them through how we think and how they think, and it's honestly helped us a lot because we're able to take a step back and be like, okay, yeah, this was really constructive and really helpful, and they also understand like why some of the things we do is the way that we do it. And I think that open communication is really, really helpful, and I think we've been able to build a lot of strong connections and relationships with a lot of the people that we work with. And so they're really open with saying things with us, and they also listen to us, even though we are young, and really take our feedback and our responses with a lot of respect too, which has been very helpful. Because I think oftentimes when people have a lot of experience in the industry, they often think like, okay, this is the one way to do it, and you're younger, so you should do it the way that I've worked and tried before. And now I think it's like, you guys also have a lot of experience, and we'd love to help you and also listen to what you have to say because you guys also have experience in the field too.
Yeah. But I think a lot of that also comes from you being open to their feedback as well, right? So it's a two-way street of people understanding that actually you have something I can learn from, but both of you also have something that they could learn from because you're more connected with today's generation or students that are a key part of this competition. You know what they're looking for. Um, Super exciting. I would love to understand a bit more about the funding model for this business. With nonprofits, it can be really tricky to make sure that you have a sustainable flow of funds coming in or that you have mission-aligned funders on board that will stay long term. How do you manage the funding side of things, and are you considering different funding models for the future?
Yeah, awesome question. Very, very interestingly, we didn't think about funding at all in the first cycle of the competition because I think that was really when we kind of had to understand incentive alignment for the stakeholders, right? So for students, we only really thought about funding when it came down to the competition, and we were like, okay, it's not enough to just win something for their college resume. They want to be compensated in some form. So our head mentor for the competition actually supplied the first fund that we had for the prize money at the end of the competition. So that is when we started to think about these questions. Okay, now that we have this prize money established, we really need to grow our pool, our bank account, whatever you want to call it. So we did a lot of research, and honestly, a lot of the kudos go to Aarya for this, where she found so many amazing mission-aligned organizations, like you said, including the Riley's Way Foundation. And these organizations that we first targeted were the type that were funding young change makers, high school students. We fit their demographic, and we understood that we needed to get to them first because they already believed in the power of young people, right? It's a little harder to apply to the federal government or a large organization and say, hey, I'm a 16-year-old, please give me some money for a project that they didn't even know was going to continue into college for us, right? So targeting those people that were already champions in young change makers. Now that we have grown over the last few years, we are starting to target different organizations to continue our funding. So our baseline model is we will reach out to partner organizations like the IFEL, for example, and we say, we'd love to help your businesses. Send your businesses to us at no cost, right? So the business owners don't have to pay anything for the I3 competition, but in return, we request the partner organization like IFEL to make a prize fund match donation to us. So if we have two organizations, I3 Competition and IFEL, both of us put in $1,000 for the prize fund. If we have four organizations, everyone puts in 500 because we keep I guess the prize money constant throughout every year. So our hope is that with more organizations joining us, the matching becomes less for each partner organization to contribute. And I don't know, I feel like that's a pretty great incentive. The third type of funding that we are looking for right now, and is definitely our current slash future focus, is reaching out to regional businesses, banks, etc., who might benefit from being referred to our small businesses, or might benefit from hosting an event for the high schoolers or something like that. And having them donate maybe services or even money to us would be really great. So that's kind of our focus for the future. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, exactly. No, I will not lie and say that applying for grants it's definitely not easy. I feel like throughout the summer, I probably spent probably half the summer applying or being on some tab looking at some grant application form. And for the thousands of grants that you apply to, it's like only one or two say yes. And so really staying diligent and kind of keep looking for things and looking for opportunities, even though we started this in our South Asian Heritage Club, we were never just limited to more South Asian entrepreneurs. So we kind of meet a lot of different types of grants. We focus on marginalized business owners, and that's a pretty broad community. So there's a lot of people looking to help out that community. So figuring out where our niche is and keep applying, and hopefully one person will say yes. Honestly, keeps us going for so long. Just one grant can really push us to the next level and also give us a lot more funding for a lot of more projects we want to work on, to help businesses and to help the students.
I love that you both talked about building these relationships to carry funding forward. I think it's super creative what both of you have done, right? You're not just relying on grant applications, but you're also getting people to explore innovative ways of funding, like match funding, or figure out other ways that they can contribute in a way that doesn't feel too much for them, but they're also getting value out of it. It's like value for value versus, feeling like you have to pay for something and then just wait for the return on investment to come back. That's super
Yeah.
creative. And I think it's great tips for our listeners out there who are thinking about starting nonprofits, because today you have to get creative. Like you have to try different ways of getting funding to you.
Yeah, I was actually going to just add on and say, when you say value for value, that is really the core of how we operate in this nonprofit. I have never believed that you should treat people with any kind of transactional component behind you, right? It's not about the money for us, honestly. It is about the help that we can get small business owners. It's about the opportunities we can give high school students. And if we're talking in terms of value, we hope that we're treated, we're given value in return, and we can continue to share that value. So it's never really been about like the transactional money. It's if we can help you out here, we hope you can help us out here.
I love that. It's such a strong story as well, right? To put out there. And you attract the right type of people, is what I would say, if you have that narrative. What would you say are some of the accomplishments that you both are most proud of with your business? And when you look back, you say, I am happy to have been a part of this, and I would love to take it forward.
I think I'll start off with just saying how far we've been able to expand our reach in the past few years. I think transitioning between high school and then also college is something that I think a lot of people with projects end up, it's like it's just too difficult and it's too hard to continue. And both Veda are not in the same state anymore, and we have a lot of different schedules. And being really committed to something and saying, even though we have all these things going on, both of us are super busy. We really care about this, and we're really going to continue. And we talk pretty much every single day about some new idea or project or getting something in. I think that's something that I think is always something that I'll carry forward, and being able to say like, I'm committed to something. This is what I intend to do, and I'm intending to follow through with it. And I think now that we're in college, it was definitely a really hard transition to kind of figure out. We were in high school and we had that value add then, and now it's like we're in college. We're not in high school anymore. We don't know so much about what high school students are doing. Kind of staying on top of that and being able to expand to not only just Connecticut, but all across the country, and hopefully beyond the United States next year. It's been something that I'm very proud of, and I think that was something that took a lot of work, but definitely worth it to kind of expand our reach and also help more and more businesses.
Yeah, I think this is a hard question because there are so many things that I'm so proud of, both on a personal level and an organizational level. I mean, one thing that I think all entrepreneurs can definitely resonate with is I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we were able to take this risk, put ourselves out on the line. It's hard, as you know, to market yourself, to market your organization, to be so 150, 1,000% in the organization that you're running, that you're able to market it and really sell it like that. So I think I'm incredibly proud of our ability to do that. The next thing I'm really proud of is just the growth of the students. It is amazing to see them get on a call with us when we have our office hours in the fall and say, hey, we're not super sure if we're interested in this competition. Like, what are the benefits? Then we tell them the benefits. And over the course of the competition, we check in with them every single day, if not multiple times a day. And to see their growth, to hear them ask us questions, to do check-ins with the mentors and see the way these kids' brains are turning, it is unreal. Like, the tech and business and consulting industry of the future is going to be so incredible because we're already getting to see how these young minds are thinking. On the like more quantitative side, right? Our winning team this year built a fully functioning app for a pet care company based in California, right? So people may not expect a pet care company to need an app, but these kids, they treated it like they were full software engineers, right? They had coding sprints going. Not only did they build that app, they launched a viral social media strategy for the business that led her to get 11 million like views within 4 months. She hired them as full-time software engineering interns, I guess. She unlocked the newest offering of the i3 competition, which is equity stipends. So we fund the summer internship for the students so the business owner doesn't have to. So like Arya said, that level of growth, the fact that we're able to have all these different offerings is in part because we were able to take the risk, but it's also in part because our students are so brilliant. They work so hard, and the business owners are such amazing mentors. And I'm really proud of that connection that we've built. You called us a bridge earlier. We really do see ourselves as that bridge between communities. And so being able to see the outcome of building that connection has just been amazing for us.
I am
Yeah, I
so
couldn't.
proud of both of you as well. Like, as young women of color who since high school have been creating impact. Like, I think back to when I was in high school, and boy, did I have dreams, right? I wanted to do this and do that, but I feel like I never took that step. And I'm taking that step now when I'm older. But I feel like it's great that both of you have done it, and you're an example to lots of young girls out there, regardless of your background, regardless of your age or your gender or whatever background you come from. You can do it. Like, this is proof that you can do it if you have a mission that you're proud of, if you have a co-founder that you absolutely gel with, and you have that accountability partner to take it forward. So thank you for sharing this story. I have a final question for both of you. What would be your biggest piece of advice to women and young girls out there like both of you who want to start a business or an organization on their own terms?
Awesome question. I think the first piece of advice would be find that network, right? Find you, even if you're young, you don't realize how many people are going to come out of the woodworks to help you. This is something my mom told me all the time when I was younger. She said, ask for help, ask for advice so that you can kind of start your organization, business, nonprofit, whatever you want to do, knowing all the facts, knowing the landscape you're entering, and learning from people who have done it before, right? The people who are successful are going to give you the best tips, and so are the people who maybe weren't the most successful. So find a diverse network of people who you can rely on, you can trust, and then obviously find what you are interested in and find what value you can add to the world. It may be different than what you thought it was going to be originally. I mean, I was like super interested in foreign diplomacy and like international relations before I started this competition. And I realized that my skill set actually probably lay in being a connection builder or being working with small businesses and connecting with high school students, right? So find your value add and find your network, and you will be able to take off like in an insane way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think the other thing that I would think of is, so we mentioned this Riley's Way organization that we work with a lot, and they've been able to give us a lot of funding and also a lot of mentorship. And one thing that I really took from them, and also something that I think I would recommend to anyone, is really the importance of kind leadership and really being able to advocate for not only yourself, but also just saying, like, this is a mission that we really care about. And this is something that I'm going to really fight for. And yeah, it might be pushing some things, but you're really working towards creating that inclusive environment. I think that's so, so important. And also, I think as a woman or as a girl, there's a lot more barriers to entry sometimes, and people often give you a lot of unsolicited advice or don't really believe that you can do it. But I think having faith in yourself and knowing, you know what, I have a lot of things to add. I've had this experience and I have this own experience of doing things, and I can really see it going farther. Believe in yourself, and I think that you'll be really impressed with how far you can grow and how far you can get.
Love that. So well said, Arya and Veda. I think that this episode will have lots to teach people listening about what it takes to be a founder who believe in themselves and who believe in the impact they're making. So thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much for having us. It was such a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely enjoyed our conversation. Thank you both.